All right, let's get back with the Saturday recap. We have to start it off by talking about Colorado versus TCU. What an upset. Coach Prime gave me chills with that.
God gave me a word long before this, but he's been holding it. Because it's not about them. This is about us. This has nothing to do with the team that's opposing us. This is about us. This ain't got nothing to do with the naysayers, the unbelievers, the haters, the doubters. This is about us. When we started this journey, we told you it was going to be trying, it was going to be tough, but you endured because it's about us. That man next to you is a miracle. That man next to you is a believer. That man next to you is a go-getter. That man next to you is a dog. That man next to you is somebody who wants this thing. That man next to you is somebody who believes. That man next to you is somebody that got to have it today. We ain't got tomorrow. We got now. We ain't got next. We got now. We ain't coming no more. Since y'all know we here, give me my theme music.
Pre-game speech, and they just showed out. It was amazing. DP, what you think?
Give me my theme music.
Exactly. Give me my theme music, baby. I love it.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I predicted Colorado to go in there and get smacked by TCU. I was going to take TCU minus 20.5 all day, but I was proven wrong. I think as a lot of people were. But, I mean, what can you say? Shedeur Sanders, 510 yards through the air. 4 receivers with over 100 yards. Travis Hunter might be the early candidate for the Heisman just based on his performance on both sides of the ball. Their defense stepped up and made big plays when they needed to. I know, obviously, they let up 42 points. But, I mean, when your offense is played as well as they did, you know, sometimes your defense can be a little bit more bend, don't break. So, I mean, it's got to be an early candidate for game of the year, too. I mean, I know it's week 1, but that was a very exciting game.
It should have been the game of the week. First of all, they got snubbed on that, and they proved that it was probably the game. It might be the game of the year, possibly when it's all said and done. But yeah, Shedeur Sanders, wow, like just wow, 4 touchdowns, 510 yards passing, unbelievable. He looked amazing. He was throwing balls that that were just like perfect. I've never just dropping it right in the breadbasket like for some of these like deep throws that he was throwing. It was insane. But yeah, four receivers over 100 yards receiving. The Dylan Edwards, the rookie running back, had 4. The freshman running back had 4 touchdowns, 135 yards receiving, 45 yards rushing. He was a beast. Travis Hunter, man, unbelievable. Like he has to be the favorite for the Heisman after week 1.
I'd say, yeah.
I mean, 120 snaps played, 65 on offense, 55 on defense. He had 11 catches for 119 yards and a touchdown, and then also had an interception.
Right, and that interception was insane.
Oh, that interception was like it looked like Deion Sanders back in the day.
I mean, that was just a great overall like football IQ play. How he read it, played it out, and then the athleticism to make the play, it was just 10 out of 10.
And he dropped another one later in the game where he basically ran the route for the receiver.
Oh yeah.
Like he ran the route before the receiver even broke on it.
Mm-hmm. And then he dropped the ball that probably would have been a touchdown in the first half.
Yeah, I mean, the catch that he even had that got called incomplete was an insane catch. It was originally a touchdown. They called it incomplete, but like that was an insane catch. If he bobble it, I mean, that's unbelievable. So,
dude's a freak.
Dude's a freak athlete. Shout out to Jimmy Horn Jr. too for 11 catches for 117 yards and 1 touchdown. Shiloh Sanders, the little brother, led the team in tackles with 10 as well. So, yeah, amazing. And honestly, TCU didn't look that bad either. The Chandler Morris, the QB, had 3 TDs. They were running the ball like crazy. They had a two-headed monster with Monty Bailey and Trey Sanders. Bailey had like 164 yards rushing. He was almost at 12 yards carry. And then Trey Sanders had 3 touchdowns. So, I mean, they looked pretty damn good, too, for losing a bunch of talent after that big national championship run that they made.
Yeah. I mean, their offense is pretty good. I mean, now they got Coach Bryles, who was my OC for 1 year at FAU. A lot of people know him as the OC who was at Baylor, like back when they had RG3 and those guys, like in the early 2010s. And, you know, he's a great offensive coach and is known for putting up a lot of points. So anytime you can outscore his offense, I mean, you're doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But, yeah, game of the year. We're calling it right now.
Oh, yeah.
But next we had Michigan versus ECU. Michigan dominated, no surprise there. Just had to throw it in there because it was Blake Crum's first game back after that ACL injury, and he looked great. 10 yards for 10 yards, 10 carries for 73 yards and a touchdown. Looked phenomenal. And then honestly, JJ McCarthy looked pretty damn good. The quarterback, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns. They dominated. Defense looked good, just like last year too. Yeah, no surprise. Any comments on that one?
No, yeah, I was pretty much expected how that game went. Michigan did look pretty good. I thought they executed well. So good overall week 1 game for Michigan.
Yeah, I mean, they just proved why they're favored to get back into the college football playoff, and no surprise there.
Yeah.
Next we got Tennessee versus Virginia. I honestly thought Virginia was going to cover this spread of 28.5, and I was very wrong. Shout out to Joe Milton, though, for 201 yards and 2 touchdowns in the first half. Yeah, dominated.
Yeah, Joe Milton looked good. He had one throw where I think he literally threw the ball 80 yards in the air, and he just looked like he wasn't even trying, and I was like, Jesus. But, yeah, I agree. I thought the 28-point spread was a lot, especially for a week 1 matchup at a neutral site game. I mean, even though you knew it was going to be 95% Tennessee fans since it was in Nashville. But, yeah, I mean, Tennessee looks good. Virginia kind of looked how I expected them to, even though they didn't cover. But, yeah, watch out for Tennessee. I mean, I think they're ranked 12th right now, but I'm sure they'll be moving up as the year goes on. So
they're my favorite. I mean, they're my prediction to win the national championship this year. So they better keep trucking on.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Virginia. I mean, I just thought they would be a little bit better. I thought they would come out like a little bit stronger, especially after dealing what they had to deal with last year. So I thought that they, would come out strong, wanting to make a statement on their program. But Tennessee's a tough team, so there's still a lot of ball left to be played this year. I hope that Virginia has a great year after everything that they had to go through last year with that shooting on the bus. So I think they're doing a ceremony for them at the beginning of their home opener this weekend. So that should be a very emotional. So I hope that they come out next weekend and beat whoever they're playing.
Yeah.
But the next game we got Oklahoma versus Arkansas State. I had to put this one in there just because it was 73-0. Dylan Gabriel looked amazing, 308 yards, 2 touchdowns. No surprise there though. I just had to throw it in there because they beat the team 73-0.
Yeah, I think Dylan Gabriel is one of my dark horses for the Heisman this year. I really like how he plays. Last year Oklahoma had sort of a down year, obviously, but I think Dylan Gabriel is a really good quarterback through the air, and he can use his feet when he has to. Also, obviously they played well. They executed in all aspects last week. They even made Butch Jones cry on the sideline, so that's how you knew they were doing good.
But yeah, hey, I can't wait to see what they had to do in the Pac-12 and the Big 12 this year. I'm a big fan of Dylan Gabriel. And that Texas Oklahoma game that should be amazing this year. I got it circled on the calendar. I can't wait for it.
That'll be a good one. That'll be a shoot.
Oh, it will be. It will be. At Fresno State versus Purdue. Fresno State came back and won 39-35. This was a great game, super back and forth, a lot of lead changes. It was a fun game to watch.
It was, yeah. I thought Purdue was going to win. Obviously, there was a bunch of big plays in that game too.
Oh, huge. There's a bunch of 40-yard plus plays in that game.
Yeah, a ton of explosive plays. Shout out to Fresno State going into Purdue and winning week 1. I mean, obviously that was a money game for Fresno State, and they pulled out the win. So shout out to them.
Absolutely, and then flying across the country too, and playing a game at 12 o'clock and like. That it's like normally 9 o'clock their time. I was super impressed that they came out to play like that. I mean, that's got to be coming across the country, jet lag, and then playing a game like your body's like, what the hell am I doing up at 9 o'clock in the morning playing a game, you know?
Yeah, that's a great point because I feel like a lot of people don't realize that because, I mean, when you're traveling for games, you're traveling the day before. So they're flying Friday, afternoon, Friday evening to go to a game that's, in a 2-hour different time zone.
Well, they lost 3 hours,
Right, yeah. I think it's 2 because that Indiana is like the central time, but still.
Yeah. Okay, right.
But, I mean, still dealing with that jet lag and traveling, obviously it kind of fatigues your body, and then having to wake up and, play a game at, 12 or 11 in the morning. It's not the easiest thing to do. Speaking from experience, I've had to do it a few times, and it's not easy, especially when you're traveling to different time zones.
Exactly. I mean, it's not like the NFL where you travel the week before and get to prepare the whole week.
Yeah.
You're waking up one day and you're like, your body's like, what the hell is going on? And you have to go out and play.
Literally. That's exactly how it is.
But yeah, no, Mikey Keaton for Fresno State looked amazing. 366 yards, 4 touchdowns. I mean, Purdue's quarterback, Hudson Card, looked good too. 254 yards and 2 touchdowns. So it was just a great game all around. Shout out to Fresno State for getting that bag. And shout out to Fresno State for coming in and doing what I didn't think was going to be possible.
Yeah.
So. But, next we got Ole Miss versus Mercer, another slaughterhouse that I just had to put in because I've never seen 73-7. But yeah, the 3 quarterbacks that Ole Miss played all combined threw for 524 yards and 6 touchdowns. Jason Dart, the starter, threw for 334 and 4 touchdowns, and then they have Spencer Sanders from Oklahoma State as the backup, and he threw for 134 and 2 touchdowns. And I can't believe that he's the backup quarterback whenever he was like I think he was top 5 in passing yards last year for Oklahoma State.
Yeah, he balled out last year. Jackson Dart's pretty good, though. And, I mean, coming in as the returning starter last year, I feel like that kind of gave him the edge over those guys. But, I mean, yeah, Ole Miss was rolling. The Lane train was in full effect. They had
Choo-choo!
I forget the receiver's name, but he had 3 receiving touchdowns, I think, in the first 5 minutes of the first quarter.
I write that down. I forgot. I can't think of the name though.
Yeah, but I was like, that's just insane. That's like video game type stuff.
But yeah, shout out to Lane Train. Ole Miss might be a tough team in the SEC this year. Honestly, they looked unstoppable. I know it's Mercer, but I mean they look pretty.
They're definitely not a team to sleep on for sure.
And then next we got another slaughterhouse. We have Oregon versus Portland State. Again, I just had to put it in there because 81-7. 80. Yeah, you heard that right.
81-7.
Bo Nix, 287 yards, 3 touchdowns. Their running back, Bucky Irving, had 4 carries, averaged 30 yards a carry, 119 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
Averaged 30 yards a carry?
Yeah.
Not bad.
Not a bad day. So there too because of the slaughterhouse that was. But Eddie, you got anything to add to that?
I just felt bad for Oregon mascot having to do 546 push-ups or whatever it was.
Yeah, I know that Oregon. I mean, that mascot's got to be jacked now.
He's probably still sore.
Oh yeah. Be like, damn, Jimmy, what you on some steroids? No, I'm just the mascot.
You're gonna have to call in the backup for next week.
Yeah, exactly. So next we got Ohio State versus Indiana. I was very disappointed in Ohio State. They only won 23-3. I was very disappointed in this performance. Marvin Harrison Jr. only had 2 catches for 18 yards. And then the quarterback, Kyle McCord, only threw for 239 yards and had an interception. So, I mean, I was very disappointed in Ohio State. And I hope that was a fluke performance.
Yeah, definitely not a great start for Ohio State. I mean, they won the game, obviously. They won by 20 points. And it's week 1, so, let's not freak out too hard. But, I mean, Marvin Harrison only having 2 catches for 18 yards was a little alarming, especially a lot of people picked him as a Heisman favorite this year. But, again, it's only week 1. Like I always say, it's a long year. A lot can change. So we'll see how it goes. I don't know. Who does Ohio State have next week?
I didn't even look it up, but I mean,
it's probably some cupcake money game.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, don't get me wrong, Indiana. I mean, that's a conference game.
It is. Anytime you have a conference in the Big Ten, a conference game, there's no gimme games. I feel like Ohio State has at least one scare every year where there's a team they should beat that keeps it close.
Yeah, I like I said, with that receiving core, I'm disappointed in Kyle McCord.
Yeah.
But next we got Washington versus Boise State. Washington absolutely put the beat down on Boise State. A lot of points being scored. Michael Penix, right? That's how you pronounce it?
Penix, yeah.
Michael Penix Jr. 450 yards, 5 touchdowns. Amazing game. I told you Washington's a sleeper this year. I wish I would have put them in my Final Four bracket. I didn't. I switched it last second and put Clemson in there. What a mistake that was. But I loved a lot of Washington.
Yeah, Washington looked good. I mean, Boise State jumped out on them 7-0 quick on the first series. I mean, it was close for, pretty almost the entire first half, and then Washington.
Yeah, it was like 21-14, I think, at halftime or something.
Yeah, and then Washington just sort of pulled away. I think Michael Penix had like 350, 360, something like that through the air. He had like 3 touchdowns. So
50.
350?
450.
Oh, shit, 450. My bad. Yeah. 5 touchdowns. I mean, yeah. He's definitely got to be top 5 for the Heisman race right now, considering it's week 1. I think he was already in the top 5 regardless. But, yeah, watch out for Washington, the Pac-12. The Pac-12 will be another conference that's interesting to see this year. And it'll probably be the last year of the Pac-12. So.
Yeah, honestly, a lot of good talent in the Pac-12 this year, as we were talking about in our preview. But, yeah. Good for us late-night football people. Working in the bar business, that it's great whenever you get a game that you can watch until 2:00 in the morning when you're about to leave.
Yeah. Shout out Hawaii too. Yeah,
shout out to Hawaii. But next we got Texas versus Rice. Texas won 37-10. Quinn Ewers looked pretty damn good, 260, 3 touchdowns. I didn't know that JT Daniels was the quarterback at Rice until the game started. We'll talk about a guy that went from a high of starting at Georgia and then just being bounced around from West Virginia to now Rice, and he did not look good. 149 yards, 2 interceptions. I mean, he looked terrible. But Texas is a great team, though. So.
Yeah, Texas is gonna be really good this year. Next week will be exciting to see them play Alabama. So obviously that's the game of the week. So.
Oh yeah, hands down.
Yeah, so that'll be a big time game.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, nothing really surprising there. Texas obviously handled them. That wasn't crazy. But Texas State, shout out to Texas State for upsetting Baylor 42-31. Big win for Texas State. Big win for what are they in the Mountain West?
Sun Belt.
Sun Belt. Yeah, they're in the Sun Belt. Yeah, big win for Sun Belt.
Fun
yeah,
Belt.
I know the quarterback for Baylor got hurt. Blake Sharp he's out for like 3 weeks with the MCL tear, so that's gonna kill your season. But yeah, I mean Texas State really showed out.
Yeah, shout out to Texas State, and one of their starting receivers does not wear gloves, so shout out to them even more. And that same guy had a one-handed catch, a top 10 play on SportsCenter.
Yeah, catch was nice. That catch was nice.
Gloves.
Next, we got Houston versus UTSA. After that 3 overtime thriller last year, this game was pretty close, but it wasn't as high scoring. 17-14, Houston over UTSA. Frank Harris played absolutely terrible for UTSA, which was disappointing because I loved him last year for UTSA. He really showed out and put UTSA on the map a little bit. So unfortunately, I got this game wrong too on the pick'ems. But yeah, he had 209 yards, 3 interceptions, not too great. But Donovan Smith looked pretty good for Houston. He had 233 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I thought this game was going to be more of a shootout, and the final score was what, 17-14?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought for sure this game would have been one of those that hit the over. But that being said, I was kind of disappointed in both teams, honestly. Houston's uniforms were pretty clean, though.
They were pretty clean.
Yeah.
So shout out to that. But yeah, I was pretty disappointed in UTSA's performance. I just thought that was a big game that they could have put the Conference USA on the map a little bit.
Yeah.
They definitely failed. But next we got Louisiana Monroe beating Army 17-13. Shout out to Louisiana Monroe. Army was actually up 13-3 with 6 minutes left in this game, and then they allowed 2 touchdowns and blew this game.
Yeah, kind of a rough start to the year for Army. Shout out to the Warhawks, ULM baby. I feel like they're the one team that never gets any recognition in the FBS, so good for them.
Exactly, good for them. They ruined my lock. I was actually 0 for 3 in my locks for the week, I think, this week. So, yeah, thank you, Louisiana Monroe, for making me look like an idiot. Appreciate that. Let's get on to the next one. We got Penn State versus West Virginia. Final score was 38-15. Penn State won. They looked amazing. The defense looked really good. And I don't know if you saw the kickoff for this game, but the Penn State punter that does the kickoffs is an absolute unit, and he kicked it into like the 5th row of the stands. He's number 99. He is 6'6", 274. I had to go look it up on the roster because he was making the people look like they shouldn't even have been on that field.
That dude must be playing kicker and D tackle.
His name was like Francis, some like crazy N last name, but yeah, absolute unit. I had to throw that in there because I literally was like freaking out about how big this guy was. Yeah,
Drew Aller had a really good game. I feel like this game kind of played out as expected. West Virginia isn't anything to rave about this year. Neil Brown's probably on the hot seat, probably going to get fired unless things turn around this year. So, but I mean, Penn State could be one of those big teams coming out of the Big Ten. So it's kind of both teams are on opposite sides of the spectrum going into this year. But yeah, I mean, this game kind of It was pretty much what everyone expected, or at least what I expected.
Yeah, they covered the spread too. That
Mhm.
was that was the one that I thought that was going to definitely cover the spread. But yeah, Drew Aller, 325 yards, 3 touchdowns, solid game. And then the running back Nicholas Singleton had 70 yards and a touchdown too. They're saying that it could be a dark horse for the Heisman. So he played pretty well too.
Yeah.
So shout out to Penn State. I think that they could be a dark horse. I mean, the way that Ohio State played, it might be between them and Michigan this year.
Yeah, you might be right.
So, but yeah, next we got North Carolina versus South Carolina, the Battle of the Carolinas in Charlotte, the neutral site. But North Carolina came out and won 31-17. This game was a pretty fun one to watch. It was pretty back and forth at the beginning until the second half, whenever North Carolina kind of took it away.
Yeah. I was at a wedding on Saturday, so I didn't get to watch much of any of the games, unfortunately. But I did see the highlights, and I did pick South Carolina to win, so I'm pretty disappointed how they came out in the second half. But, I mean, for the most part, it's a pretty close game. North Carolina is a great team also. Drake May played great. I mean, he definitely outplayed Spencer Rattler, so North Carolina could be the team to come out of the ACC this year, depending on what happens between them and FSU. So, see how it plays out.
Yeah, I mean, Drake May, I mean, I wouldn't say he played great because he had the 2 interceptions, but he definitely did enough to win the game. And, you're not going to have a great game. Like, you're not going to have an all-star game every single time, but he did enough to win the game. He made enough big plays in the second half to make sure that his team came out on top. But 269 yards, 2 touchdowns. Yeah, I mean, that's still a solid performance.
For sure.
And then Spencer Rattler, too. I mean, he had 353 yards passing, so he didn't play that bad. I think the defense let him down a little bit, but also I think that he didn't make that many, big plays in the second half that I was expecting to make a lot more big plays in the second half to carry the team, and he really didn't.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that was the game of the week, and I got that one wrong too. I had South Carolina, but hey, like I said, North Carolina is no slouch, and North Carolina is definitely a team to be talked about for the ACC championship. So, there's no surprise that they won.
Yeah.
But next we got Illinois versus Toledo. This was another one of my locks that did not hit. I had Illinois -9. And they won by 2. The final score was 30-28. Toledo is actually up 19-7 in the midway through the third quarter.
Yeah, I mean, Illinois won on a last-second field goal.
Yeah.
I mean, they were up. I mean, almost till the end of the game.
Yeah.
And then Illinois drove down, kicked the game-winning field goal. So, Toledo almost pulled off another upset too.
Yeah, no, shout out to Toledo for that. I mean, but yeah, no. And then the last game that we got for the Saturday was Tulane versus South Alabama. I mean, Tulane won 37-17. Michael Pratt looked phenomenal. He was 14-15, 294 yards and 4 touchdowns. No surprise, really. I can't believe that people had South Alabama upsetting them this week, but I thought that Tulane looked great.
Yeah, a lot of people are kind of high on South Alabama coming into the year. I mean, considering all the things from last year, I obviously picked Tulane to win this game. I think Michael Pratt's a really good quarterback. Boca High School alumni, shout out Boca.
Shout out to Boca.
Yeah.
Bobcats.
But yeah, I think Michael Pratt is, I think he could win, AAC Play of the Year. Just looking at the conference as a whole. FAU's in the AAC this year. The whole conference has a kind of a new look to it. So we'll see how those new teams factor in against teams like Tulane and Houston. Well, not Houston anymore, but yeah, it'll be interesting.
And speaking of FAU, shout out, they got a W this week as well.
Yeah, Kodak was at the game.
Kodak let him out the tunnel. The FAU, how's up, baby? But yeah, no, shout out to them. And then yeah, that was it for Saturday. Sunday and Monday we had to start the Sunday matchups. We had Rutgers versus Northwestern. They won 24-7. I thought that Rutgers was going to handle them very well, and I was right. I just thought that Northwestern had too much like off the field stuff going on between Pat Fitzgerald getting fired and a new head coach and stuff. Like, I just didn't think that they were going to come out looking good, and I definitely was right on that one.
Yeah, that was another boring game. Kind of put me asleep on Sunday afternoon, but
yeah, expect wedding too. You know, you're waking up like, oh, let me watch football. No, yeah, yeah. But had 12 yards whole game. They averaged 5 yards, so basically a half yard a carry. Terrible. But Rutgers did their thing.
Yeah.
And then next game on that Sunday slate, we had Oregon State versus San Jose State. Shout out to DJ Ugalale for his performance. He had 5 touchdowns, 239 yards passing. Absolutely destroyed them, 42-17. That's a pretty solid win in my opinion.
Yeah, they look pretty good.
So yeah, no, I mean, Oregon State, they could be a little factor in the Big 12 too. You never know.
Yeah, Pac-12 will be an interesting race this year.
Pac-12, I mean, God, I keep saying that. And then we got to talk about this one. The last game on is Florida State versus LSU. Florida State dismantled LSU in the second half, 45-24. Jordan Travis, 342 yards, 5 touchdowns. He threw 3 of them to Keon Coleman, who just seemed to be open every play almost. He had 121 yards or 122 yards receiving. And then Jaden Daniels had 347 yards and 1 touchdown, but I didn't think he looked that great.
No.
LSU.
Well, Florida State's offense looked great, I thought, for the whole game. I mean, they got a great receiving core, a great quarterback, solid running backs, and they just looked like they outwilled LSU in the second half. Like, it almost looked like LSU didn't even want to play anymore.
Exactly. And in my opinion, Jordan Travis, I mean, he balled out in that second half. The first half, he had a couple throws where there's a couple dropped interceptions, and I was like, whoa, like, I don't know why you're even attempting to throw that. But bounce back. It could have been like first game jitters, you know. But yeah, man, Jordan Travis looked phenomenal. Shout out to Benjamin.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, FSU looks for real, man. FSU looks for real.
Yeah.
And then the last game on the Monday, we had Duke versus Clemson. Duke ended up winning 28-7. Man, what an upset. Duke just absolutely I mean, let's just say they took advantage of what Clemson gave them. Clemson pretty much gave them this game just like the Florida game with Utah. They had 4 chances to put points on the board inside the 20 and didn't come up with any points. They had 2 fumbles and 2 blocked kicks, I believe. So I thought Cade Klubnik looked not like subpar. I didn't think he looked great. He had 209 and 1 yard, and 209 passing and 1 touchdown. I didn't think he looked that great.
Yeah, I don't think Duke won this game. I think Clemson just lost it between the lack of execution and the turnovers. I mean, Duke came out ready to play, though. I mean, they had a great fan base come out. Everyone showed out for the game, coming off a pretty good year they had last year, considering it's Duke. So, I mean, definitely an impressive week 1 win for Duke. I mean, maybe they'll be in the top 25. You know, we'll see what happens. Maybe Colorado will be in the top 25 now. So it'll be a couple interesting storylines going into week 2.
Absolutely. And that Riley Leonard guy looked pretty good for Duke. I'm not going to lie. He had that absolute beast mode run for that one touchdown. 175 yards passing, 89 yards rushing with a touchdown.
Definitely. He impressed me for sure. He had a great game.
He definitely impressed me. And then shout out to Will Shipley, too, that one bright spot for Clemson. 114 yards rushing. Yeah, nasty catch for the one touchdown for Clemson. And there reminds me so much of Christian McCaffrey. We were talking about. But, yeah, the one bright spot. And they have Clemson. Yeah, I had them in my college football playoff, and I was wrong there because I think they're done now.
I don't know. We'll see how it turns out. I mean, it obviously isn't looking good right now, but
yeah,
it's college football
good right now. So, but yeah, I went 5-5 in my college pick'em. DP, what'd you go? Do you remember?
I don't remember. I didn't look at it. I definitely didn't go undefeated because I picked TCU.
I forgot what mine was or what yours was too. I just remember I went 5-5, so I was pretty disappointed in myself. Yeah. But just shows that there's a lot of disparity in college football this year. It's going to be a great year for college football.
Heck yeah. Can't wait till next Saturday.
Absolutely. So you guys have a good night. We got a lot to talk about the next couple of days. We got NFL coming up. We're going to do a couple NFL takes, and just make sure you join us on our college football pick'em on ESPN. The group is the Barbecue 561. If you would like to join, it's free. And then also check us out on YouTube at the Barbecue 561 as well. We got all of our videos posted on there as well. You guys have a good night. Peace.